It's easy to score in the NBA.
Easy.
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. Those numbers are fraudulent. They are.
Apparently, both Giannis and Jokic dissed the NBA.
The game in Europe is way harder than the game in the NBA.
I mean, really, like, they said it. They said the quiet part out loud. I mean, look at what Jokic had to say as well.
Is it harder? Yeah, just because I think you need to really think about it and really, you need to have really quick thinking.
And I'm telling you, man, it wasn't just me noticing this. Chris Broussard and Rob Parker, they had a problem with it, and they had some things to say about it too.
And he didn't go as far as to say it's easier, the NBA.
This is Chris reacting to what Luka said in March of this year about how it's easier to score in the NBA.
It's easier to score in the NBA. Scoring 30 points in the Euroleague game is harder than in an NBA game. 100%. I'm just saying this because of the rules.
Now, just listen. Pay attention to what they have to say about this matter. Pay attention to what conclusions they draw on what Jokic and Giannis and Luka had to say about it.
Rob, this is a problem because these are the best players in the league. These aren't like Rasho Nesterovic, Ricky Rubio saying that. And they are telling you this is easier.
Just in case you want the full quotes of what they had to say, I mean, Chris, he comes in clutch and gives it to us right here.
If you listen to what they're saying, Giannis said the floor is not as spread, so did Jokic. So what they mean is there's more bodies in the paint. The floor over there is a little bit smaller, so obviously it's not going to be as spread out. And the three-point line is shorter, so the bodies aren't as far away from the basket.
Okay, makes sense. So far, they're just talking about the different nuances of the Euroleague and the NBA. That makes sense to me.
So what they're saying is there's more people in the lane. It's not as spread out as the NBA. It's more physical than the NBA. You can get, you can body cats. You got to think more. Luka threw in there's more team basketball in Europe.
Now, you may be wondering to yourselves, what is the big deal?
Rob, call me crazy, but you know what that sounds like? The old NBA! Right? Michael Jordan's NBA. Magic Johnson's NBA.
You mean the one, Chris, the NBA that all the youngins and the Rob Guerras, the Rob G's disrespect and act like nobody could play? Those guys?
That NBA. Yes.
Yes. Because it's Charmin soft. But we tell you every day. Chris and I it's easy to score in the NBA.
Easy.
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. Those numbers are fraudulent. They are.
Based on the facts that I'm showing you clips of Jordan and then highlights, you know where this argument's going. You know what they're about to say next.
And when we say Michael Jordan could average 40 today, that's not hyperbole. I mean it.
This video's been going for over 3 minutes and 20 seconds. How did we get here to where we're talking about Jordan averaging 40 in today's NBA? Well, I'll tell you, look. They listened to Giannis and Jokic talk about the NBA being easier to score in. And all of a sudden, it became an old head argument.
How do you think that made you better?
And so in today's video, we'll listen to the full quotes and see if the old heads are right.
First of all, the game in Europe is way harder than the game in the NBA. And I don't want to disrespect the talent. Obviously, in the NBA, it's way higher. But the space is just, you have a lot of lanes to drive the ball, a lot of lanes to create.
But wait a minute. The way they framed it, Chris and Rob, they made it seem like Giannis looked at the NBA and said, "You're too small. You can't beat me."
It's just, I think over there is more intense. Like people pick you up full court, double team you. Full court zone to man to the last 5 second double teams from the start from zone, and then they go man to man the last 10 seconds, and then the double team in the post. There's no lanes to drive. Like, it's just the more physical.
Now one has to ask himself, why is it that way?
Because I don't know if it's because the talent's less and you have to be, kind of be more physical to catch up with that. But like, it's harder.
I understand that these guys are some of the best players in the league right now, and that's why they feel threatened by this. But what Giannis just said there should actually signal to you that He's not dissing the NBA in any way.
Yeah, I know you're only focusing on the headline. Oh, yeah, it's harder in the European League. But Giannis
we just focused on the details.
Said right in the beginning, part of the reason why they play like this is because they're not as talented. So they have to play this way.
But what is
so
people in
so then your
America?
issue.
Michael Jordan wasn't talented.
So then,
I know that was hard to hear, but I'll try to decipher what they said. So Chris, he said Americans' talent for them is only running and jumping, and that's not true. You could be a talented shooter or defender. Rob here says Michael Jordan wasn't talented, and the problem here is, Rob, we're not talking about Michael Jordan right now. That has nothing to do with what the argument is, right? We're talking about comparing to the Euroleague players. So Basket News, they've done a good job covering everything Euro hoops, and they talked about the top players in the Euroleague.
Number 5, Shane Larkin.
There's a reason guys like Shane Larkin can become top guys in the Euroleague, okay? Even though they're not as talented, not nearly as talented as the best players here.
At 3, we find the most dangerous isolation player in all Euroleague, Mike James.
Most dangerous ISO player. Yeah, that says everything you need to know there. Okay, Mike James. If some of you were living under a rock when this happened, okay, Curry wins the championship. And Mikey here doesn't even have him top 5.
It just blows my mind Steph isn't top 5 for anybody. Is it because of age or just like...
I do my top 5 off of obviously you got to perform and kill and all that. That's number 1. But then I got to look at your game and just how you do it. And Steph... how he plays and how he gets stuff off, it's just kind of one-dimensional at times, if that makes sense.
From what Steve Kerr draws up?
Yeah, basically. He's not the primary ball handler a lot.
Right.
And for a point guard, that kind of bothers me.
And I mean, thank God for Curry, the petty king. He had a nice response here.
One-on-one versus you and any of the campers here, what does that look like?
Oh, it's all bad for them. All bad for them. Even as one-dimensional as I am. I'm petty, dog. I'm so petty. Oh, I'm so petty. Keep it going. I like that one a lot, though. Sorry. You're good. You gotta keep that in there, though.
Now, Curry, he has his haters, and Rob Parker is actually one of them. I mean, just look what he had to say earlier in June of this year.
You wrote a column on Deadspin.com about Steph Curry ruining the game of basketball. When did you write it?
I don't think anybody here cares to know.
I talked about the three-point. Everybody's a three-point shooter. Steph ruined the game. I know other people have talked about it. I think Mark Jackson in a different light. But I'm just looking at it from the standpoint of how the game has changed, but in a bad way. I'm not against the three-pointer. I understand it. But I think everybody thinks that they're three-point shooters, and that's what I think I don't like about the game, that it's only three-pointers or dunks. And there's a whole different basketball out there that used to be played, and I'm not trying to turn the clock back.
The key is, do you blame Steph?
Yeah, because Steph took...
because Steph takes a lot of threes. He should be... Come on, man. Stop hating on greatness.
And finally, the best player of the regular season, Nikola Mirotic.
That should tell you everything, man. That's just... Man, EuroLeague, I'm sorry, the talent is just not there comparable to the NBA. Jokic even adds on to this.
Nikola, Giannis talked about yesterday about how he feels that international play is actually harder than the NBA because of the space that you have in the NBA and because typically, at least in the regular season, teams don't throw multiple coverages at you. I was wondering if you could speak on that and just your thoughts on the differences in international play.
Yes, it's different. Yes, it's different. Of course, there's a little bit in the rules.
What was that? Come on, man.
A little bit in the rules, a little bit like the space of the floor, the three-point line. I think it's shorter, is it?
Yeah.
It's shorter, so
it's 3 in the key.
Even
no 3 in the key.
There is no 3 in the key. So even the floor is smaller. The big man can be in a paint.
Sounds to me like a lot of the reasons why the leagues are so different, EuroLeague and NBA, is because of the rules. I mean, they admitted themselves, right? The NBA is more talented.
Is it harder? Yes, just because I think you need to really think about it and you need to have really quick thinking. Let's say like that. I think in NBA, if you go by the guy, you can see the help is coming in Europe is like, if you go by that, the help is already there, so you need to kind of think, play ahead, So it's interesting,
I think because we're seeing a rise of international players coming into the NBA and seeing the top 5 players in the NBA being mostly international players, I think that scares a lot of people. A lot of Americans are thinking, oh, we're behind, we're falling behind. When old heads hear what Giannis and Jokic had to say recently, it gives them ammo to try to bash the younger generation and, the softer NBA, when in fact, it's just a different circumstance of rules. Like, there's a lot that comes into the play.
Can you sort of compare the NBA to maybe not just the ACB, but the EuroLeague in general?
Well, I would say European basketball is more team basketball, more tactics basketball, but it's it's very different because the court is smaller, the fouls are different, the rules are different, so everything's different, and you have less time.
So it's really an apples to orange comparison when you compare both leagues. I mean, the old heads coming in trying to interpret the argument their way, it's very disingenuous. It comes off of them being salty as hell.
Just playing in the NBA, you have guys that they're almost impossible to guard. And that's why NBA is way more tougher to play. I only say scoring is easier in NBA just because of the amount of the different rules, the less space, the time. So that's why I said it.
So you think it's harder to score 30 points in a EuroLeague game than it is in an NBA game?
Yeah, 100%.
But there's better players over here.
Oh, way better players. Yeah. I'm just saying because of the rules.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are angry when they see Harden with all these free throws. I am too. But when we talk about the NBA being soft, what? Do you want to go back to the 2004, 2005 NBA Finals when Detroit was just, manhandling people all of a sudden?
Because the guy can stay. If you have a guy like, let's say, Rudy Gobert, he can stay in the paint on defense 3 seconds, however he wants. Like, just because of that rule, you can have 10 more points easily.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
There's other people that talked about this. They try to make it out to be that Giannis and Jokic were saying, oh, this era is not as talented as the past eras. None of that is true, okay? What they were simply saying was that the NBA and EuroLeague rules are different, and because of that, it's easier to score in the NBA. The NBA is more talented, but it's just harder to play in a more physical environment in EuroLeague. I can't believe I had to explain this, but whatever, it is what it is. Older people romanticizing the older era because, well, it's what they do, and we're going to do the same thing, our generation, 20 years later. It just is what it is. Now, obviously, a lot of these guys are older guys, and you'd think, okay, the newer guys, hopefully, they're stepping up. Nope, be careful now, okay? You got some newer folks coming in the media that are doing some questionable stuff, and it's gonna be something that we have to discuss at some point. Until then, though, there's a video right here ready for you about Malika Andrews, how ESPN has a problem right now, and they gotta fix it. They gotta address this because Malika, she stepped out of line a few times. I'm not saying that, she wasn't in the right to do so, right? I get where she was coming from, but you got to understand, man, there's boundaries that you can't cross, and I think ESPN knows they have to address it.